Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Monday, November 23rd, 2007 Strategic Planning Committee meeting. Roll call. Mr. Martin McConnell is absent, and Mr. Todd Lambert is absent. And good luck to Todd's son. They play in a playoff game tonight, so good luck with them. With that, we will have Ms. Fontenot say our prayer.
Father, we just come before your throne tonight, and we tell you thank you. Thank you for 200 wonderful years in Ascension Parish. May we have many more. We ask, O Lord, tonight that you give us the wisdom and the courage to do the work of the parish tonight as we deliberate some of these issues that are so important to our people, especially that of drainage, Lord. And Father, we ask as always that you remember to keep safe our soldiers that are abroad. We ask for special blessings upon everyone who volunteers their service in Ascension Parish and in this nation, whether they be in fire, law enforcement, Lord, or just ordinary citizens trying to help those that live and surround around them. We ask all these things, as always, in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will have public comment period on anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item. You will be recognized. I'd like to ask for 2/3. We have something on benchmark to be presented tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Barriga, second by Mr. Fontenot. No objections. We will put that at 4A. And other information on grants updates. Ms. Martha Collins had to leave today. Her daughter is having a baby, and so we wish her and her daughter good luck. And she will not be here tonight. And so we will go to 4A, benchmarks. And Mr. Quintmore, you have something for us.
Thank you. My purpose of coming here tonight is to inform you some elevation problems we have in with Ascension Parish benchmark. I ran one at the corner of 935. If I put that there, will that show up? 935 and Highway 22. That's where the little Catch-22 bake shop is. You got a brass disc that I think SJB Group set on a parish contract, marked elevation 4. We ran from your benchmark with a sign, Ascension Parish benchmark, and found 3 foot 9 inch difference. That's a little bit more than we can live with. Either we got to tell this guy to bring in 4 more feet of dirt, tell him his insurance is too high. So I got to calling other surveyors, and we just had our continuing ed at LSU, and I don't know if y'all can read that. Professor Cliff Munier. Now, I've been knowing Cliff a long time, and he's an expert. This is his paper, Data in Plains, I gave you earlier. And he says we don't have any accurate benchmarks here. Zero. None. Now, remember we talking to professors, so accuracy to them might be a sheet of paper wide. I'm not interested in that. I want to know, are we getting water in people's houses? That concerns me. When we say that we meet a FEMA certificate of a certain elevation, is that correct or not? Now, the maps they asked you to accept are North American Vertical Data, NORAD 88. We have previous maps that we're using currently are North American Data 1929. Now, that was tide charts. They don't even use the word elevation anymore. They talk about heights because we use satellites now. We found this out in New Orleans when we thought the levees were a certain height, and we found out they really wasn't. So it occurred to me, and I called a few other surveyors to say, how do these marks, are we hitting them or not? I took off just recently to do a slab, came off of Joseph Ario Road, that project. came off the benchmark we used there for that project. I ran right across Highway 42 into that subdivision to that benchmark, 2-foot difference. We can't live with 2 feet. We can live with a few inches, okay? I ran from the mark in the subdivision to the 1980 parish marks. That was authorized under the president, had to be Kerry Arsenault at the time, and checked within 3/10 of a foot. Now that was 29 datum. We didn't, in 1980, we didn't have 88 datum. So we're getting ready to convert to 88 datums. And I talked to Bob Turner today, your new director, and he volunteered, and I'm going to volunteer, no pay, to work on a committee to make a study of our benchmarks, see what we got, where we are, and what it would take to get some accurate marks that we can rely on. Now, we are very fortunate to have a CORS, and that's not the beer, that's CORS, Continuous Operating Reference Station. We got one in Donaldsonville on a building. We got one at Galvez Middle School on that building. We got one at Lutcher. We got one at LSU. We can come in with GPS, not us, but you can hire a firm that does that and get some accurate marks. We did that apparently 3 or 4 years ago, but the marks we got are not reliable enough to use. I don't know why, but as a committee, if you could get some other guys to serve on it with me, we'd like to find out what you got already. And this is what I would hope the committee could accomplish. And Bob Turner said he wants to be on that committee. What and where our benchmarks are, what do we have now? What do we need in the future, and how the parish government can accomplish this. Let me tell you the problem. Right now, we can take a GPS and get an accurate mark. It takes to sit out there 4 hours with that GPS unit, come back tomorrow and sit out there 4 hours. Now, your people got to pay for that. FEMA feel like the certificate ought to cost $1,500 to $2,000. I think that's too burdensome on the people of Ascension Parish. About 65% of our parish is in the flood zone. We need to hold that around $300 to $500 if possible. I mean, if we got to charge people $2,000, that's a pretty good whack on somebody trying to get in a house. So maybe we could organize and get some good benchmarks and spirit level between them. But the only way we can do it is get a committee to explore this and bring it back to you and tell you this is how it is. And that's the only reason I'm here tonight. I know that papers that I gave you are pretty technical. I don't expect you to understand all those terms, a gyroid and a ellipsoid and all that. That's magic in the sky, let's call it. All I want to know is how I got to build my house, how much dirt do I have to haul in. That's what our people care about, and what can we provide that to them at the least cost. And that's what I hope the committee can come back and recommend to you.
And we agree, Mr. Quintmore. Mr. Barriger.
Mr. Quintmore, being a professional surveyor, I hope that's the right title. Are you telling me the benchmarks that we just spent $500,000 on are worthless?
Yes, sir.
None, totally worthless?
No, they're not worthless. You want to get within 3 or 4 feet? Is that close enough? When you're a house builder,
I don't know.
you know
Is it
better
close
than
enough?
that.
No.
How much dirt
I
you
know.
haul in?
Yeah.
Here's the problem we're seeing, and I talked to Kenny Lambert the other morning, and we tried to solve, we hadn't run any benchmarks in the parish till you run the last ones you did. And you put them in the best place you could put them, bridge abutments. That's the most stable thing we have here. Now, what they're telling us at LSU, Mr. Monnier, that all of Louisiana is slipping into off the continental shelf. So every day is different. And that opus, what opus is, that's nothing but a term that tells you these operating stations, they're shooting the satellites constantly. And if you look at that chart, you see they don't ever get the same thing twice. So you got to meal that out. But it gets down into millimeters. Well, that's okay. We can live with millimeters. We can even live with centimeters if it's, but not a foot. I mean, that might get water in somebody's house. So what I'm telling you, I just shot your mark. It says Ascension Parish benchmark. And I ran over to that monument that says 4 on it. And according to that one, it's 774. That's 3 foot 9 inches. That's unacceptable. So I call your people. I said, I call Ascension Parish. I need a benchmark. I got one of those monuments right in front of my house. I said, we'll give it to you, but it's not reliable. What do you mean it's not reliable? Good if it's not reliable. We have to have something reliable. Now, it don't have to be to a thousandth of an inch, but it has to be reasonable. And we could get a GPS. If you read Mr. Monier's thing when you have time, he said it's only accurate today, not tomorrow, today. But remember, that's a professor. They deal a little bitty thing. We're not interested in it. We want to talk about slabs and dirt for our people. We want some reasonable assurance that they won't get water in their house. That's what we're talking about. I don't know why that says 4, and your mark says it's 774. I don't know why. That's what I think the committee needs to find out why. We don't know if your mark's on 29 and they on NORAD 88. See, the plats that we get, they give you the elevation, but they don't tell you what datum they're on. Mm-hmm. Would you think they'd be on 29 because that's the maps we use it? Or did they use GPS equipment and they're on 88, which doesn't match the map, and according to Mr. Monier, you can't use Vercon to calculate it. Mm-hmm. So we need to look at this.
Mr. Whitmore, we understand the problem, and we have appropriated a substantial amount of money to investigate that and try to come up with accurate benchmarks. And I'm not sure right now, just offhand, you're catching me cold here on that. Bill Rue was taking that through DPW and working with LSU, and they were trying to establish the GIS towers. And from that, they were going to make the benchmarks, I think, through SJB.
The towers are almost online. I talked to Tony Cavell yesterday. They're almost online. We got 3. We got Lutcher, Donaldsonville, and Galvez. So we're in the core system.
Right.
Now, we can get an accurate reading, not even using theirs, because they did 99 more benchmarks, U.S. Coastal Geodetic, because of the New Orleans problem.
Right.
And we could probably get in Opus right now and get an accurate mark. But can our people afford to pay a surveyor to sit out there 8 hours with an instrument? That's really burdensome. Mm-hmm. I would hope we could do better than that some kind of way.
Well, what we were looking to do is to find out how many we need throughout the parish and establish normal benchmarks in strategic places throughout the parish. That's where we were headed. Now, how far along we are on that, we really don't know, and so I think it's very appropriate that we do have this committee to look into it and come and report when we find the information. I agree to that, and I'd like to add, besides you and Mr. Turner, Mr. Barriger, and
we just need to bring it back to you and tell you where you are.
Yeah, and I'm going to have myself and probably Mr. Savoy, who is interested in that, to be on that.
Whatever we can do. I'm retired. I got plenty of time now.
I understand. We will get with you, and all of these questions. First of all, we need to sit and find out where we are right now with the things that we are implementing at this time, and then we can find out where we need to go from here. But we sure do appreciate you bringing us up to date on this, because we haven't had any news probably in the last 6 or 8 months about this.
Well,
very serious
when we
issue.
ran that one, it concerned us. I called 2 or 3 more surveyors, and they're talking about quit doing them, period. Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to increase the cost for our citizens.
Right.
If somebody's got to drive here from Baton Rouge, New Orleans, or Ethiopia, we've got to just try to keep this reasonable. That's young people building houses. We've got to try to keep it reasonable.
We understand. That's what we want to do also.
Thank you.
Ms. Fontenot.
Can we get administration to give us a report on this particular section? Because we did appropriate money to do this.
That's what we're going to do. This committee is going to sit down with the administration, and we're going to ask the questions that we need to ask.
Okay, because it's time to get a report.
Yes.
On this particular thing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Whitmore. And we will be getting back with you. Okay, number 5, we have an amendment to the idle no-wake zone ordinance. This information is coming out of our Waterways Commission, which has been meeting, and they sent me Mr. Ben Babin sent me an email and sent us the information here. Let's see if I can find it.
It's item 7 in the Ascension Parish Waterway Commission minutes.
I just did it.
There is one item number 6 that if you look.
I don't have it.
That's the minutes. This is the
Could I use
number
it?
6.
That's something different.
Is it something
Number 6 is
different?
different.
You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's number 5, and we have it.
It just looks like minutes.
Yes. It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, just read mine.
Yeah.
Number 7.
Yes. We have, according to the minutes of the Ascension Waterways Commission, the meeting of April 12th, they request to amend the idle no-wake zone ordinance to include the following locations. The first one is Black Bayou at the location of String Bridge Parish Landing, 300 feet on either side of the landing. Do I have a motion to amend?
Motion to amend.
Motion by Ms. Fontenot,
Second.
second by Mr. Barriga. There are no objections. We will recommend that to the full council. The second one is Bayou Francois at PJ's Landing, or current name of establishment, 300 feet up current of dock and 300 feet down the current of boat launch.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Fontenot,
Second.
second by Mr. Barriga. No objections. That will be sent, Ms. Suzanne, to the council also. The third one is Severio Canal, 300 feet on each side of a Roger C. Road bridge.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second by Mr. Barriga. Motion by Ms. Fontenot. No objections. Those three are all to be sent. At this time, they are not official locations for no-wake zones, and they will be
Just a
placed there.
suggestion. Please, Ms. Suzanne, please send that to legal so they can draft it in a proper ordinance form so they won't kick it out at the council meeting.
Well, yes, it has to be in introduction form, right?
Right.
Yeah, it'd be listed as, I guess, introduction.
As an introduction, right?
Okay. Number 6, and that's what we were talking about
Sure.
early, Ms. Fontenot. Number 6, they also sent us some information, which is they thought they needed cleaning up the responsibility and criteria for closing Ascension Parish waterways due to hazardous conditions, and they would just simply like for a resolution by the council approving this responsibility and this procedure.
And this is putting it in the hands of Homeland Security.
Right.
Motion.
We have a motion by Ms. Fontenot, and
I'd like to take a couple minutes to read it, if you don't mind.
let's take a look at it. For those in the audience, we have received this printout right here of their directions as we came into the meeting.
It's very short. We could possibly read it out loud if y'all want it to go over it.
I will read it. It says, "A responsibility for closure of Ascension Parish waterways due to hazardous conditions shall rest with the Ascension Parish Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness. High water closings will be predicated on real-time conditions of the waterways as events occur. The primary advisors of the APOHSEP shall be selected personnel positioned at key location along affected waterways. These personnel will generally be members of the Ascension Parish Waterways Commission and the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office and will be determined by emergency preparedness. Additional input shall be considered from other official agencies such as Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries and Louisiana State Police. Other waterways hazards such as toxic spills or pollution shall be handled on an expedited basis with the assistance of the aforementioned parties that possess the resources required to respond quickly to these types of incidences. Emergency operations will be notified and will activate the EOC on a limited basis to coordinate external resources required to bring the incident under control. To standardize procedures, the triggers to close and reopen a waterway are listed in the table below. Number 1, a waterway watch. Number 2, waterway warning. Number 3, waterway closing. And number 4, waterway opening. Response to hazardous waterway conditions shall be initiated by emergency operations and accompanied by the Ascension Parish Drainage Department. This will include placing and recovering barricades and signs to warn the public that the waterway is closed. Emergency operations will enlist the aid of all available media to inform the public of closings, openings, and conditions. Emergency operations will coordinate with neighboring parishes that share waterways with Ascension Parish. When the decision is made to close a waterway, the emergency operations will inform the parish president, Ascension Parish Sheriff, the Director of Wildlife and Fisheries, and any other organization deemed necessary. This may also include early warnings of Ascension Parish citizens who may be subject to flooding or harm from other hazards.
Cheryl, was that motion to pending OEP's review and also legals?
We can make that
Second.
part of the motion. Yes, sir.
Officially, we have a motion to adopt this recommendation by the Ascension Waterways Commission for closing waterways, pending approval of legal and OEP. Ms. Fontenot had the motion and Mr. Barringer had the second. No opposition. Motion carried. Please send that to the full council. Drainage ordinance. Okay, this is something that we've been working on and off for a while. We have it back now. A few months ago, we had a little subcommittee, went through everything and took the recommendations from this body and tried to put it into the ordinance, and then it went to Mr. Ricky Babin to put it in ordinance form, and then we got it back, and at that time Mr. Sigler came on board and Mr. Bob Turner came on board. They took this information recently and has been going through it and has made some suggestions. And so what I thought we would do is we would start from the beginning and go through it and look at the suggestions that were intended by them. They were all listed there. And the first page, the only change is on section B, as long as is scratched out, so it's just a grammatical change. And in number 2, there's a couple of R's that are taken out, so another grammatical change on the first page. And please help me if I miss some as we go.
I think you'll also find on that number 2, Bob wanted to add the word filling after grading.
Right.
And
Where is that, Bob?
On applicability, number 2, second sentence in the first paragraph, filling after grading.
here.
Oh, okay.
It's hard to see if it would have been in red.
And filling is added.
And Bob also on C, I think it occurs a couple other places, added
Yours is not colored.
less than 50 cubic yards.
I'm going to have to look over yours. Yeah, mine's not colored, Bob, so it's going to be
Oh, it's
hard to
not?
kind of see.
I'm sorry.
I've got 2 of them. I've got them right here.
That's the color.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Anybody has any problem with first page? The second page, on Part B, Section 3, Federal Emergency Management Agency or permits obtained from the parish, and they're talking about all the permits that obtained from the parish. Right here, Part B. And all of these permits that they have listed here for everyone's information, these are things that we all already get permits for or have to look at this time. So they're just listing them.
Why are we going to govern other agencies' responsibilities? I mean, we can't enforce. I mean, we can't issue wetlands permits or any other permits. Why are we going to govern another government agency?
It says that the developer has a responsibility of adhering to all state and federal laws regulating drainage, and all it says that they are under these federal laws and they have to obtain permits relative to grading, drainage, flood control, including but not limited to the following groups. They're just listing all of the permits that they need to get.
And when are they going to be required to have them?
They have to have that when they go through the planning, and when they get their permits from us, we require that they have copies of that.
Now, wait, at what stage? At the construction plan stage? At preliminary approval? Why make them spend all this money if we don't know they're going to have preliminary approval? That's where I'm going. At what stage are we going to require this?
Some stuff, it depends on what stage they're at as to what they've got to come up with.
Well, we better list it and tell them when we're going to do it, instead of just saying we got to do it.
We do that under our subdivision ordinances as they go through different steps depending on what they're doing, because some, if you're just building a house, that's one thing. If you're developing a piece of property, it's something else. But at each individual step, they have to have so much to do that's completed. Like if it's like today where they're having, tonight they're having a pre-development meeting, the third one on this Orange Grove deal. They had, one of the reasons they're there tonight is they had a couple of things they needed to get to move to the next phase. So they turned some in then.
This is not.
I want this clarified.
But this is not. The drainage ordinance is not the process that they go through. This just is a statement of all the information that they need to have and all the requirements.
In the development code, it does not require some of this stuff, is what I'm saying. So when are you going to require it? That's being taken care of by the process. But till I vote on this, it needs to be taken care of. We're going to create an ordinance that doesn't tell you when you're going to enforce the ordinance? That makes sense to y'all?
You cannot. Let me back up. And it's a chronology thing.
Right.
You cannot tell you when you're going to enforce something until you have something in place. Once you have something in place, administration.
What is the something?
Once you have the ordinance in place, the drainage ordinance, then administration can make their list of items and the chronology at which that you need to go through to get this information done. They cannot do a list of things or administer something that is not on the books. So this is kind of the chicken before the egg. You have to put this in order to do that.
My understanding of this drainage ordinance, a lot of it.
Mr. Laverne, I think you do a lot of these things. Would you care to?
Yeah, for the most part, Mr. Chairman, this is before a construction permit is issued to begin construction. I think CSRS looks at this and sees that's part of the checklist for the requirements, what they have for wetlands determination, wetlands permits and such, before we can even issue as a checklist that Sean Chereau goes through, and I think this is included in it. Full permits are issued for construction.
And once again, we said we think it's in there. We don't know for sure. All I'm asking is a clarification of when and how this is going to be used. That's all I want to know. And it doesn't say it in here.
Ms. Fatner.
As I read this, it just says that it's just reiterating in this ordinance that everybody will comply with federal and state regulations.
That's all it's listed.
It's just a comment. It's just in there that the developer, that it's saying here that it's the developer or the owner's responsibility to comply with federal and state regulations. That's what I'm saying.
I understand that, but when do you want them to apply? In the preliminary planning
Whenever.
or in construction?
That's an administrative duty, and that's handled
All I
from
know
the
is when.
administrative end. That's an administrative duty. It's not something for us to legislate there. That we
Disagree with
legislate
that.
what's
You're
required.
legislating it now. When are you going to require it? It's in a legislation. All I want to know is when.
Mr. Sigler or Ms. Bourgeois, do you have any suggestions of anything we should put in here?
I would suggest we talk to Sean Chereau at CSRS. I'm pretty sure he could answer that for us, and that would be easy as a phone call.
Okay.
And
Let me clarify a little bit more. If you
We can have it
require
to you.
it at the construction phase of it, after the preliminary approval is given, I'm okay. But don't make people spend a bunch of money and then you turn them down. If you approve, give them preliminary approval, then make them spend all the money to go further. That's all I want.
Whatever.
Any other suggestions, Mr.?
Councilman, are you talking primarily just about subdivisions or individual homes?
Well, it's
Subdivision.
subdivision means
Right.
one lot divide from one
Right.
lot into two. That could be Joe Smo down the road from anyone dividing his 1 acre into 2 half-acre lots. This applies.
I can tell you at this point, we are not requiring any of this until you're getting down close to construction. A preliminary deal, we would not require the wetlands determination. I don't know that we've asked for the navigable streams. And I know from a floodplain, the floodplain information, obviously you're just going to come up pretty quickly to figure out what it's going to take for them to bring in dirt-wise. So they did that
all I wanted
themselves
is
earlier.
clarified.
Okay.
And I'm not taking up for the big old developer. This is for
Could be
the
a family partition.
individual family
Yeah.
partition.
Could be.
I want to give my child a piece of property.
Right.
He has to do this. I just want to know when he has to do it.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Shakedown, I'm sorry. We can move on.
I'm trying to put wordage in here that will satisfy that statement.
The only other change I know on this page, if you go further down, is we changed and tightened up under grade requirements for structures and roadways, something y'all talked about earlier. We, instead of maybe the datum being used being consistent with the firm maps for floodplain information, we think it should be consistent.
Something close to that.
Okay. If we would add on to there, as per development code process, within the planning department and DPW, would that give us and then they would be required to have that information, because it can change. I mean, this is something that can change according to procedures. I don't want to handcuff you on.
So add some lines, say under 3, in that first sentence, as described in the subdivision code. Is that what you're?
Yeah, well, we can say it and must be described in the subdivision code or development code procedures as to when these are necessary. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what word.
I'm not trying to muddy the water, but we talked about a checklist. Is it different from the construction codes? I think it is.
I think it is.
It is. So what are we going to use, a construction code or a checklist? Because they
it-
use a checklist right now, do they not, Mr. Laverne?
Yeah.
And it depends. If we're dealing with a subdivision, there's certain rules and regulations. If we're dealing with individual houses, there's certain rules. There's certain procedures that are different. And if we're dealing with family petitions, there's certain procedures that are different. If we're dealing with simple division of property, there's certain procedures that are different. And that's all covered by the planning and DPW, and they take it from there. And so I don't know how it's not one thing that we can write down that would cover that. It all goes back to how they would implement that.
What if we said something to the effect of, in that first paragraph where it says, in addition to requirements of this ordinance, that the owner or developer of any property in Ascension Parish shall be responsible for adhering to all state and federal laws regulating grading, drainage, and flood control according to established policy.
Okay.
That policy is going to change from time to time. I mean, you have to approve it when we do change it, but it's going to change. I mean, I can't tell you what changes will happen, but there will be some. But the policy has to. But policy
and
has
still,
to be
I want a
right.
clarification of what does the policy say? When are we going to make them adhere to this? Is it doing pre-construction or construction? Preliminary approval or construction?
Well, as a part of the policy, each policy, depending on what they are doing, that may be at a different time. For instance, in a family partition, it wouldn't be to the very end. But if it were, say, a larger subdivision, some components would have to happen a little earlier to move to the next phase of the development, because you'd have to establish the floodplain data on it real early on, just to be able to get approval to even start on the rest of the drainage design part of it. It kind of depends on what you're doing, and not all developments are the same. Some of them are 4-piece family partitions, and some of them are going to be the 500 lot big complexes, and they won't be exactly the same.
I think where you're getting at is that now you need to go to the policies and see if we can adopt have the policies.
But if
into your area.
you're gonna pass a drainage ordinance that deals with subdivisions, that's the division of one parcel into two. That's a family partition. That's a whole bunch of things. It needs to be spelled out. When are you going to require it? For family partitions, for a subdivision of 8 lots or more, a simple division of property, which is 8 lots or less, with enough road frontage, that can be spelled out in this ordinance.
But that is policy, and that policy is going to change. It depends on how it's implemented. And I think we're getting into a crossover of policy. I don't know whether we're going to solve this or not. Ms.
We're not solving. It's not going under council tonight, because I'm not going to even give you a second on that till we figure that out.
My thing is, if it's federal and state regulations, I mean, the federal and state will say when they need to have it required or whatever, because they're the ones requiring it.
Okay, so why do we have it in our ordinance?
Well, it's
Ms. Fano, you have
the only thing I would be asking is, at what time does this drainage ordinance have to be complied with? Because this is all in the drainage ordinance. So at what point in time are we going to require the requirements in this drainage ordinance to be done?
That's for us to decide whether you want to give it a 60-day deal or a 90-day or whatever.
And so all we're saying in this document is that not only this document will be followed by anybody, but the federal and state regulations. And I agree, we do not have to regulate the federal and state. We're just stating in our policy that those requirements are also necessary. But it's the federal and state that will decide when those requirements
But we
are necessary.
and there are some things, like you do have to have a core permit before you're allowed to construct things. And so we do take that information in, and we do go over it.
And that would be
and
by policy.
It is done by policy.
Right.
It is not done by ordinance. It's done by policy. And so there's two different things. And so, we just have to decide whether we, as legislators, want to do policy or not. So that's something we need
We don't have a second.
to look at.
Take a look.
Well, let's just go through everything and see what we can agree on. Okay, at the bottom there on Part 4 is they've scratched out where possible, and just to say this data must be consistent with the benchmark datum reference in flood insurance rate maps. Hopefully we can get the datums correct by that time. The next page on Part D, number 1, It says 1 foot below FEMA base flood elevation, and they have there the latest edition, so that it changes with the latest updates.
Which, by the way, we've got our letter.
Right. The next thing is on Port 3, peak water surface elevation of the stormwater detention system draining the proposed roadway and record inundation. Is that the way you wanted it?
Yes.
Okay. As we go down, number 1 again, and under Part E, again the latest edition of FEMA base flood elevation. Number 4, at the end, it says top elevation of nearest adjacent sanitary sewer manhole on the sewer collection system servicing the proposed structure, and accessory buildings are not subject to items 1 through 4.
And we're requiring...
They must be submitted to the applicant and approved in writing by the Director of Public Works. Any deviations to this policy? So if you have any deviation to this policy, it must be approved in writing.
It's good.
Any other questions, comments about that page? Next page, and this is where we had a few questions. Part 1 and 2 up there, it had developed drainage condition areas may be decreased relative to the existing conditioned drainage area to compensate for the additional peak flow generated by increasing the impervious area of the watershed. We scratched that one, and we scratched the next one about same basic thing to be decreased relative to existing. What is the rationale behind?
That's opening yourself up for an awful lot of interpretation and problems and discussion and argument on bigger developments that probably doesn't need to take place to begin with. It's just simply saying that the natural ridge lines and drainage boundaries shall be established prior to any development, and developed conditions shall maintain drainage areas draining to each natural outfall as closely as possible should cover it. Otherwise, we were both very uneasy with that.
And probably the best thing to do is get a variance to that, because that would be
you can
something
always
that
have
we
the
want.
ability to get out and get a variance if you really disagree and your engineering is good enough. You can always apply for a variance, and generally you're going to want to see something like that yourselves.
Because that's one of the things that they really suggested, is we keep the natural ridge lines and drainage
Can't let water
boundaries.
flow uphill no matter how hard they push it.
Yeah, because that's been one of our problems. We're changing a lot of the
Right.
natural drainage areas, and we want to try to keep that. So, okay, so those two were scratched for that reason. Part B says where existing stormwater conveyance system, either man-made or natural, and they just took that out. Traverses a proposed development. Something not needed. Part 3, engineering review agency may allow for minimal increases in profile in cases where the development may be restricted from making improvements to lower the water surface profile. That was eliminated, and which they determined it would be better to get a variance if you
Right.
wanted to do that with engineering.
They will be
So in
very...
other words, you couldn't increase the water surface profile from one to the other unless you got a variance. What that is doing is protecting downstream
That's what we've been wanting.
flooding, which is what we've been wanting to do. And so if they're going to be something that causes that they cannot control, they need to get a variance.
Right.
Okay, and that would be at a public meeting. Part 4, for major streams listed, and they struck that out as defined by the Department of Public Works. Major streams are listed. We have them listed, and it's probably by the Drainage Department.
Right.
That's where we have it listed now. So you may want to change that.
Change that
by
to...
Public Works and or Drainage Department. Do you want to just add?
Why don't we add that to it?
Okay.
Or Drainage Department.
Or Drainage Department.
Because on this side it will be the Drainage Department, on the other side it will...
Right. It'll be Public Works. So you have two entities.
Okay, that sounds good, yes.
They may require this analysis to be based upon higher storm frequency than 10-year event. particularly when the difference between a 10-year and 100-year water surface is greater than 18. That was something that we really wanted to keep in so that the ERA can have the authority, because of conditions in the area, to require a greater storm
Right.
design. Can we keep that in there?
Sure, that's not a problem.
Yeah,
like
that was
that.
one of the things that we all agreed on, is that we wanted to have the,
Did we want to increase it? Is that what this
well, it just, he may require this analysis to be based upon a higher storm frequency than a 10-year event. He
Particularly
can decide based upon the existing problems.
Okay, good.
So we wanted to leave that, Mr. Sigler.
Sure, that's fine.
That was one of the things that we had discussed earlier.
And, never mind, I'm gonna wait.
What do you have?
Go ahead.
Okay, Part B on the next page. It says the volume below the normal water surface cannot be considered as detention volume. We had talked about that earlier, and I think that's something that's okay to put in. Part C. I'm going to have to use the other one to read it. Okay, it says, if the compensating storage is derived from an off-site source that is not part of the proposed development, must be located in the same watershed as proposed development, and the base flood elevation of off-site source shall not be greater than 1 foot above or 2 feet below the base flood elevation of the developed site. What that was there for is an off-site storage detention pond. For example, if you had two developments that wanted to use one common detention pond, that was giving them an opportunity to do that. It was recommended by Bob and Ron that we should do this on a variance basis, have that go to variance. So it's just a question if you want to allow off-site storage of water, or do you want to require them to go to variances to get that?
Well, it says on phone approval of public works.
They're talking about
Approval of public works and/or drainage department.
You could. It's just a question of how you want to do it.
They would be more likely to be the ones to say whether it should be or not, because they would have more information than the variance people would have.
I agree.
And right now, to issue a variance, you have to have an extenuating circumstance or a problem.
Okay.
And
Well, Ron's suggesting we should require special written approval of Public Works. I think we can do that and have them, and that would go forward. Let's do Public Works and our major drainage department. Because this is something good to have. We may start going to some common drainage basins.
Right. But each of those will require all kinds of cooperative agreements.
Right.
They're different.
Okay. Now, the next one, we talk about storage credits. And this is one where if you have a development that has extra credits in their storage, do you want them to allow them to pretty much give credits to someone else within that basin?
Or even the thing that's possibly even worse from a drainage standpoint would be a developer in one area has excess credits, but he doesn't have near enough in another area that's got a problem, and he's
Right.
going to be able to swap them back and forth. That could create a problem.
I'm not too hip on this one.
Take that one out.
I would like to cut that one out, in my opinion.
it is cut out.
Well, but
Yeah.
It's not physically cut out, but that's we think that needs to go.
yeah. All right, so we're going to cut that one, Part E. Eliminate that.
So F will become E.
All right, the next one is Part F, waivers to Section 6, I'm sorry, of the ordinance due to the property owner's inability to generate field credits may be made on a case-by-case basis by the Director of Public Works, Department of Public Works. Department of Public Works shall report to the Drainage Board on a quarterly basis a list of all waivers issued in Section 6 of the ordinance.
You have to change that.
Do we want to?
That should be our drainage department.
Yeah.
That should be
Well,
drainage.
DPW is regulating this.
Then they're going to, it says, that she'll report to the drainage board, but we have a drainage department now, so, somehow or another they have to connect with the drainage department, and then the drainage department reports to us.
Right.
So we're leaving the drainage department out here. We have to put that in here.
Well, that's through Department of Public Works.
No, it's not at this time. Our drainage department is separate.
Okay.
See, when we created this document, we had not split.
I understand.
So we need to correct the language now. I don't know
So
what.
we need to put, actually, we need to put Public Works and the Drainage Department. Because
Okay.
one place it would be the Drainage
Right.
Department and Public Works.
And the East Ascension Drainage Works.
Yes.
EADW. That's the proper
Right.
term.
EA Drainage Works is
And
what.
EA Drainage, EA Drainage, is it EA?
So we have to change that one instead of drainage department.
And then all we wanted was that the drainage board members wanted to get a listing of any waivers granted
Okay.
on a quarterly basis so we can overlook that.
And that can come through the EA drainage department.
I've
What's
got
that?
it now. I've got it now saying Director of Public Works and East Ascension Gravity Drainage Board.
Okay.
West Ascension Gravity Drainage.
Well, in that case, though, Public Works is the one that's doing all that anyway.
Okay.
Right. That's all within Public Works. Okay on that part?
Right. I just wanted to make sure that we have it the title correct, and
He's got it.
is.
It's East Ascension Gravity Drainage Board, isn't it?
No, I think
No.
it's EAWD,
EAWD.
East Ascension Drainage Works.
Ron,
is
just
what
take
it
the
is.
official title
Okay.
and clear it up.
And Ron, you need to do that in every other place that we said drainage department,
Okay,
so that
I'll
it's
just have it
consistent.
first place all
Thank
right.
you.
Part 7, A, stormwater detention systems that limit post-development peak flow rate to the existing condition. Peak flow rate shall be required of all residential commercial developments except. I don't know what the question is there for Bob, because we're limited to existing condition.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. I mean, we're not asking for a 10, 25, or 50-year frequency. It's just the existing rate. So that comment really doesn't apply to this.
This was his.
Yes. We're going to eliminate that comment. We need to leave that one as is.
Okay.
I think he was thinking of something else. Okay, number 3, and we left the size of detention should be based on increase in runoff volume. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll skip one more. Number 2, we added area behind total watershed for the receiving stream to the total area of the development of at least 25 or greater. So they want to make sure the total area is covered. So you added area. Number 3, the size of the detention should based on the increase in runoff volume between the pre-development and post-development of the property. Using the blank frequency storm, the outlet pipe of the detention basin shall be sized to pass a 1-year pre-development flow. We had talked about this before, and we'd all agreed on this would be a 10-year 10-year frequency because it gives a ERA ability to increase that if he sees other information. This is our base that we start from.
Okay.
Go back to 2. What do we mean
Yes,
by at least 25 or greater? What is 25?
It's a ratio, and I really don't understand it, but Mr. Michael Songier explained it to us, and it's a ratio of the amount of land to the amount that it drains. It's a engineering term, and that's how they figure this. And so it's something we don't need to understand. Let's say
About that.
it's a term that they use, or a figure, a number that they use in figuring
It's a pretty tough calculation.
the adjacent channel ratio. Okay, next page.
Just a question.
Yes.
I see in the comments Bob and Ron are talking about changing the from 10-year to 25. They may want 100 or 50. What's the reasoning or the thought
I'll be
process?
honest with you, we didn't know that you'd already decided on 10-year. We
Right.
love 10-year. 10-year is fabulous, but we didn't know if you'd get away with 10-year. We thought 25-year would be the next step. But in a choice, we will always choose 10-year.
Well,
And my
and I
thoughts
can
on
explain
that,
it. Yeah.
yeah,
We had a number of meetings.
You got it for? I got it.
Well, you can have
No,
it if
go
you
ahead. I'm
want.
picking on you.
We had a number of meetings, and with the ERA, and on just about all developments, a 10-year storm is very adequate in the design. And what we would be doing is raising the level amount of dirt that would be needed to elevate the houses because of our other requirements. The detention is raised to 10-year, and we're protecting the houses at about a 25-year. So the houses are much higher,
Right.
and that's what we want to make sure we protect people's houses.
25-year detention size pond would be a pretty good size pond.
Right, and so we would really be changing a lot of things. They do have a right to do it if the situation presents itself. Okay, the next page, Part 8, on E, says where a proposed ditch will discharge into an outfall channel, the proposed ditch shall be enclosed with a properly sized pipe under the maintenance access strip of the outfall channel. So it's just adding properly sized. And I think next change is on C. It says dedicated drainage servitude no less than 15 feet in width shall be required on the rear of all lots where rear yard swales are constructed. We had said a 15-foot drainage, but now we say no less than 15 feet because something may be needed that would require greater than that.
Can we add something in Part 8?
Yes.
I ran into a problem where a contractor was developing a subdivision close by, and they had a pretty substantial drainage going through the subdivision, and they were going to put some large box culverts through it, but till they were ready, they put about an 18-inch culvert, temporary. And I think we need to have something in here that it's a temporary culvert, but it needs to be sized for the channel. I mean,
Right.
I'm talking, we had a 6 or 8 foot box culvert that had to go in, and we had like an 18-inch culvert temporary, and if we had a really good rain, that could cause some serious problems.
Could we put that, Bob, under construction standards? That temporary culvert should be sized properly?
Or not exactly. I understand a temporary culvert is temporary, but it's got to be
Size adequate.
it's got to be closer to the ditch you crossing, or
We could say something to the effect that size and placement of temporary culverts must be approved in writing by Department of Public Works and
East Ascension.
East Ascension.
Well, let's just keep it to one because this is a
Yeah, Department of
temporary.
Public Works would be the one where they handle
Yeah.
that.
Let's keep it to that
All
because that we don't want to make it that inconvenient. We just want to make sure that they put the right kind in.
Temporary what you said?
Temporary culverts.
it can definitely be larger, in my opinion, but not a whole bunch smaller.
Must be approved by Department of Public Works.
Now, is that
Well, I'm sure they've got to get a permit to put that culvert in anyway, don't they?
Even for temporary, they should be come and get a permit.
Right.
Well, then we missed
Well,
it.
then we need to get them to check the sizing for temporary
Well,
culverts.
you can put that here.
Well, we already have it in.
Say all temporary culverts require a permit and approval.
Okay. They might not have gotten a permit on that. Probably didn't get one.
Require a permit
And approval.
and approval by Department of Public Work,
Yeah.
who will see that they're sized adequately.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the permit.
Well,
Okay, next page. Number 9E. Says for all new developments constructed after the adoption of this ordinance, effluent from individual sanitary sewer treatment systems must ultimately outfall into an enclosed storm drainage system. And you wanted to take out enclosed?
Well, no, Bob asked if it had to be enclosed, and that is a state health department requirement. So
Okay, that's
can't take
so
that out.
we're going to leave that there. Next thing is Part 12D, and we're adding to floodplain administrator may require a flood elevation certificate from a professional land surveyor or professional engineer in cases where individual homeowners that are proposing residential construction, in case where it is only required to obtain a permit from the floodplain administrators.
Doesn't happen much, but there are instances of that.
What's that?
There are some cases where we can require a floodplain certificate that ordinarily would not be required. And in those cases, the only real change here is that before they require that a professional land surveyor do it, but according to the code, a professional engineer in the state of Louisiana can also issue one like that.
Right.
So basically what we're doing is wording it a little different and just saying that a professional engineer can do it.
So in most cases, they do not have to have that, but
Right.
where it is deemed necessary, they could use a surveyor or an engineer.
Right.
Okay.
You know, there are some places we know that, but they have a problem whether they show up on a firm map or not. You know, and the more development we do, the more we're going to run into like that.
Okay. All right, and that's the last one. Now, what do we want to do for this going into effect? We have 30 days, 60 days, 90 days after passage. Suggestions?
If we're gonna pass this, why should we delay it 90 days? Give me a reason.
To get the information out to the people that need to get it out. I mean, we can delay it. You need to get the information out to everyone. Now, whether it be 30 days from passage, 60 days, 90 days, that's up to us. It does not matter to
Because
me.
you may have somebody that's
started.
started the process already, and then by enforcing this right now, it causes them to start all over again. That's why you
Hold
give
on,
them a lead.
We need to allow somebody that's in the process. And this does not, if they've gotten permits, if they started with the parish, this does not apply. Okay?
And I agree,
However-
if they're already in process, then it should not be applied because they're already in progress.
Well, let me ask you this.
You can be in process without an actual
Right.
application already.
Right.
And that consists of not just developers. That could be an individual homeowner. It could be a bunch of people.
I would say if dirt's moving, you know, you need if they started moving dirt, you need to let them
And so
finish.
it's best to give them a certain amount of time. You may have somebody that bought a lot with the idea and having a certain amount of money to put their house, and if you put these impositions in there, that's going
I
to change
understand.
it. So we need to allow them time to move to the next step before we implement this.
I understand, just that this has been a long process trying to get this drainage ordinance.
I agree, and I'm ready to move forward.
And the citizens in the parish are looking forward, so we need to move it as soon as possible.
What would
So-
be a fair
Well,
amount of time?
I'll give you in the middle 60 days. That's what I think.
Mr. Barrigo, what is your suggestion? That's 2 months after passage. Is that something can be
I personally don't know
disseminated?
because I've never gone through the process
Yeah.
to know how long it takes.
Is
from
that
start to
something
finish.
that we can disseminate the information to people
60
within
days
2
is
months?
fine.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
30 days would be cutting it close.
Yeah.
That's what I said, I'll
I
split
think
it.
that would be fair. And if somebody would be beginning something, he or she would have time to get a permit and move forward with it if they would need to, if it applied.
But that you also have, and this would only apply to a big developer, but we need to be clear that if they've started on phase 1, they're okay for phase 1, but now phase 2 and phase 3 would have to adhere to the same rule, to whatever our new rules are.
Okay. We'll put in there, this will go into effect 60 days after passage.
I can get each of you the revised copy out.
Well, what we're going to do, we're going to
Get a clean copy.
agree to this as much. We want you to get a clean copy, hand that out to us, and we're going to take a look at it and disseminate it to the rest of the members. And after we get it a couple of days, we're going to have a special meeting and pass this to go forward. We're not doing anything without a clean copy.
Okay, that's fine.
Because we don't want any
Actually, we did
misunderstanding.
this with the colors because we wanted to see whose comments are whose and get you an idea of what our
That'll be
thinking was.
fine. And at that point in time, can you, Ron, can you have us some answers on when things go into effect for these permits and things?
I'll do some research on it, and I'll
That
have
you could-
something out by the end of the week.
Okay, as
I'll send each of you a letter about that. Does that need to go to the entire council or just to the Strategic Planning Committee?
Well, we can.
I think strategic.
Yeah, I think
it's
right
gonna
now,
come back
let's
here.
have it to the strategic planning so we can work on this and disseminate the information. I would like to have a meeting in about 2 weeks
Okay.
where we'd have the information and so that we can get it passed. Yes.
If you want to have a meeting, possibly a good time, since it's just the one item, it should be a clean document that we get. Why not after the transportation?
Well,
meeting?
that's what I
On the
was looking
second
at, but we're going to wait and see how soon we can get all the
We'll
information.
get this out this week.
Try to make it for that time. We'll all be here. We'll save the janitors and
lot of
the
time.
What day is the
GIS.
Transportation Committee?
Second Tuesday of the month.
Second
yeah.
Tuesday. And that way we can have it for the council after that meeting.
Correct.
Any other questions or comments? And Ron, I appreciate you getting clean copies for us and the way you have the changes made. Makes it a lot easier to go over it.
I agree with that. Motion adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to adjourn in a second. We are now adjourned.
Recommendations on the